Hi, class. We are on to talking about structural and strategic family therapy. We are starting with strategic, and I think both of these modalities work really great with families. They are probably either of them, some of them may work better with your personality than maybe other theories. I particularly like structural, and this is one thing I'm going to give as a disclaimer. And this is a true belief for myself when I'm dealing with associates whom I work with, that I think it's really important for you to stay true to yourself as a clinician, of course, in a legal and ethical way. And I think that you need to find theories or modalities that fit well with your personality. And what I mean by that is it's not good to be not yourself in session. So you need to do something where you feel like it is you doing it, that you believe in the theory, you are passionate about it, it fits with your style of therapy, your language that you use. I think it's really important that you find a theory that does that for you. And so, with that all being said, I definitely think that both of these are great models, can fit a lot of different types of people. Hopefully you'll see it as a great fit for you. Working with families is a lot of fun. It's very dynamic, which for some people that can be kind of intimidating. But it's great. I think the hour goes by very quickly. I think you'll enjoy it. So anyways, so here we go to strategic. So here's some things, the initial interview. There are 5 formal stages. You have the social stage, the problem stage, the interaction stage, a goal setting stage, and a task setting stage. The initial interview begins when you first contact the family. Depending on how your site works, maybe you won't have that initial contact until you meet with them in person. I know at my site, I still encourage, despite us scheduling for them, I encourage the clinicians to make that initial contact. That will help with making sure the client shows up, all the paperwork's filled out. But this might be a way to gather information. You're going to be direct, figure out who's coming to the initial appointment, make sure everyone is ready. When you're dealing with a lot of people in a room, it can get quite out of hand if it's not under control. And so it's important that you're prepared for what's coming, so that you can do the best that you can. Okay. So strategic positioning, the therapist's role, how you act, depends on how the client is, what the client is needing. So what response from the therapist is most likely to promote change? We're trying to promote change in the system, which is the family. And so if the family may benefit from joining together and not liking a therapist, a strategic therapist is willing to serve that role too. So if it's going to cause them to band together to not like the therapist, then they'll support that to get them to band together. We want to create change. We want to be strategic. Like, remember that word. We're going to use strategy to kind of win them over. And so it kind of has some unconventional, maybe not unconventional, ways that would cause you to do something that's illegal or whatever, but unconventional ways that you would be like, oh, really? Like, you're going to prescribe someone to fight? Like, that's interesting. So unconventional ways of like getting to the point, provoking change. So commonly used position, social courtesy, the one down position. Those are a couple different positions a therapist will take. So there's different ways to think about a problem: involuntary versus voluntary, helpless versus power, metaphorical versus literal, hierarchy versus equality, and hostility versus love. How these are used. Symptoms indicate a stage of life problem, which a therapist can use to identify where or how to intervene. So the therapist is trying to navigate trying to navigate the stage of life, like where these people are at, what's going on, what are their challenges, where do I need to step in to kind of disrupt the system, to change things in the dynamic so we can have an outcome that these people want, but they don't know how to do. Because when you're in a family system, as you may know with your own family, it's really hard to provoke change when we're used to doing things the same. So sometimes it takes an outsider coming in to disrupt the system to get the changes that we want. We talk about this a lot with addiction. And when you look at a family situation where maybe one family member is an addict, everyone kind of evolves or works around and takes on roles around that person's addiction. So when the person gets sober, it can be really hard for the family because they're like, wait a second, you're not doing what I anticipate. Like, it's hard for me to have this role now that you're well, you know? And so sometimes they like it better when the person is still addicted, which sounds strange because then they are able to maintain their roles, which that's not healthy. And so that's why family therapy is so useful in those situations, because we got to find a new system, right? Like a new system that's more beneficial for the family as a whole. So different life stages, as we know: birth and infancy, early childhood, school age, adolescence, leaving home, becoming a parent, becoming a grandparent, old age. People might have a transition. I think we might see a lot of families who are having issues transitioning when they have adult children who get married. We might see that with some families when their kids have more autonomy. We see those kinds of changes when there is a divorce, maybe a death in the family. Grandparents come to live with them. These are the kinds of things that you'll see that will affect family dynamics. So who has the influence in the family? Who is in charge? This is a cultural thing. This is why when you're doing intake and you're trying to understand what's going on in the family, that we're asking great questions, understanding like cultural implications, which to maybe in a more conventional, mindset, this might feel very odd to you, but this kind of thing matters. And we need to be respectful of like a cultural implication, how we would talk about our elders, all those kinds of things. So observe family interactions, how people respond to one another. You're not identified from a single interaction, patterns of hierarchy. So who's in charge? How are the parent and kids? Are the kids in charge? Are the kids taking over? Is there one parent the kids triangulate with? And so what's working and what's not working? And you can see that in a therapy room, very obviously. When you have more than one person in a room, there's so many dynamics just by body language alone. And so, so it's very unique, right? A very unique system. And so, again, you'll when you finally are in that position and you get to observe some of these situations, you'll be like, oh wow, she was right. Like you can tell a lot about a family. If you have a couch in your room and it's a larger couch, when you see people sit on two opposite sides, that's a little weird, right? Like if you're two loving people, like usually you sit near each other, but when they're on polar opposite sides, you're like, oh, there is something going on. So latest developments emphasize increasing families' ability to love and nurture, not dominate and control. And so, you're wanting to figure out how they should love rather than control one another. And a lot of times control is a way to feel like I'm loving this person, but a lot of times it's stifling and suffocating. So it's not predefined set of long-term goals other than to promote change. We want change. We want thoughts and behaviors and moods to be different. The ultimate goal is to help the client find ways to love without dominating, intruding upon, or harming others. This can be achieved through correcting the couple or family hierarchy, reducing intrusion or increasing engagement, causing them to talk more, things of that nature, getting family members to reunite, changing who is helpful and how, and repenting for injustice and forgiving, and increasing, of course, compassion and unity and how they express that with one another. These are all very great things, Like I said, family therapy, the one thing you commend them all on is that they're there. and they're wanting things to change. And sometimes even the best of families don't know how. And so we're here to come alongside. We're not here to tell them they're doing it wrong or that they don't know what they're doing. We're just here to try to help guide them to do things that they're capable of doing. They just don't know how to put them together. I think it's great, assuming there's no abuse and things, that most people at the end of the day, they love each other, right? Like, we're on the same team. I love you. It's just, I don't feel loved when certain things happen, even though that's not true. It's not like your love for me changes. It's just, I don't feel loved. And when I don't feel loved, I react a type of way. This goes with children. This goes with adults. And so trying to remember at the end of the day, like, this person loves me despite this wrong. What do we need to do different? So everyone walks away feeling loved, even though we don't agree, even though we may have an argument, even though that was painful, maybe something that was said. Just trying to change that culture of like knowing my family loves me, would be huge. So behavioral tasks given, straightforward directives. So like I said, if you're wanting to use strategic family therapy or just strategic therapy in general, you probably need to be a person that's comfortable being direct and being clear with people. Indirect directives used when therapist has less authority with clients. So generally take the form as a paradoxical or metaphorical task. So straightforward directives is assess the situation, target a small sequence of change, motivate the family, give precise, doable instructions, review the task, and request maybe a task report. So symptom prescription, I love this. So you might assign them like, okay, so I want you to fight every day. And they're like, what? I thought the whole point of coming here was to not argue. Well, it's like, no, I want you to argue every day. And what we'll see in some of these situations is they won't, because they won't even know what to argue about. And then they might even see how silly all their arguing is. This sounds maybe silly or strange or dumb, but it actually works, okay? With families, commonly used, this is used to avoid change when people are wanting to avoid change, and with uncontrollable symptoms. So clients with symptoms claim they cannot control the symptom, like we can't control arguing. But then when it's given that prescription, it changes the context of the problem behavior. So when you're given the prescription to fight, all of a sudden it's like, well, now I can't fight. I don't know what to fight about. It's strange, but it works. So metaphorical tasks are used when it's not appropriate to explicitly address a problem. Pretend techniques, fake it till you make it. And ordeal therapy. Ordeals are used when client feels helpless in controlling the symptoms. So here's some great, there's research-based evidence on these. These are very strategic and structural are very commonly used ones. They're adaptable to a lot of different cultures, transgender, sexual identity, different, like I said, Hispanic adolescents and their families. It's a really, I think, a great way to look at, family therapy or, therapy in general. So we're going to do now structural. This is probably a little bit more me. It's all boundaries. So what does that say about me? I think I like a little bit more of the black and white in this particular model. And I think it's easy to understand, which I think is important sometimes for clients. So rules for managing physical and psychological distance in family members define regulation of closeness, distance, hierarchy, family roles. It's a living process, are culturally defined. What are normal boundaries? What is enmeshment? What is disengagement? When you look at enmeshment, if you think of a house, right? And this is a great question to ask people. When you grew up, what did it look like when dinner was served? Was everybody in the same room? Was everybody taking their plate to their own rooms? What did it look like? And that might help you understand, like, was their family enmeshed? Was it disengaged? Was it somewhere in between? Enmeshment, usually in families, there can be some cultural components to this, but a lot of it is it stays in the family. We don't like outsiders. We don't tell anybody else. This can be problematic, right? Disengagement and rigid boundaries lead to relational disengagement. It causes people to separate. A more disengaged family might be where everyone was in the same house, but everyone was doing their own thing. So there's not the rigid structure necessarily, but everyone's doing their own thing. No one's come together, no one's close. It's not necessarily ideal. So you might do enactments, and that's where the therapist prompts family to reenact a conflict. We're trying to see like role play. You can sometimes use this to have other family members play other family members. So maybe kids' mom, dad's daughter, mom's dad, you know, to figure out what is going on in the family. It can be quite entertaining. And this is our way to break down what's going on in their conflicts, what's going on in their arguments, right? So we're wanting to join and build the alliance with the family, evaluate and assess. We're doing the family structure. We're navigating the boundaries. We're seeing if there's triangulation, what's going on with the hierarchy, and then address problems identified in the assessment, intervene to transform, and to get rid of these symptoms, right? That's what we're trying to do. So who usually offends? The entire family, who probably lives in the house, ideally. Therapists may meet with specific subsystems. So if you have, something going on with like maybe a grandparent's heavily involved, they don't live there, but they're there every day. Those might be things that you might bring in. Maybe if it's something specifically going on with the couple and not the family, maybe we might want to deal with that first. Things of that nature that could be really helpful. So joining and accommodating. So therapist joins the family system and accommodates to its style. Ability to flow naturally and authentically in a variety of contexts and situations. Therapist use of self to relate to family. Of course, you want to be legal and ethical and not cross too many boundaries with countertransference, but you might be able to utilize some things that your own experiences, authentic. We want to make this change happen. We're going to do whatever it takes. Move from being active challenger to using humor, acceptance, support, suggestion to try to achieve some of the same goals. So role of the symptom in the family, you're going to go over that. Cross-generational coalitions. Is someone aligning which is causing problems? What are the boundaries, the hierarchy? What are the strengths? What's the family development? These will all be things that you go over. And goals for all family is for them to have good, clear boundaries, clear distinctions between being the marital system, the parental subsystem. We want the effective parental hierarchy because we know if the kids are ruling the roost, it's not a good thing. And a family structure that promotes development and growth. And these are key things. So, right, the enactment phase. So phase 1, observation of these interactions spontaneously, listen for rules, assumptions. Phase 2, intervention. Can you reenact what happened last night? Please show me what happens at home when he is defiant. Redirecting problems. So you're stopping family members from interrupting, which is huge. Rearranging chairs physically to increase or decrease emotional closeness, and maybe shake it up a little. Be like, okay, these people always sit by each other. We're going to sit somewhere different, which you'll be surprised how people freak out. Maybe that's not surprising you. If you sit at church and you go to a church that has pews or whatever, people are very committed to their spot. You're like, this person's sitting in my spot. Like, people get real uptight about that, So with systemic reframing highlights complementary relationships in family, piece together family members' descriptions of problem and reframing to reveal broader systemic dynamics. We want to broaden the interactional patterns. Use interactional patterns to describe the problem in a larger context, how to make boundaries. We want to try to get them to see, like, how do I set boundaries, right? With my kids, with my spouse, with myself, to try to have a better functioning system. And maybe challenging the worldview, like, do the kids come first? I don't agree with that. Like, a lot of our culture says kids come first. If I give here, you should give there. It's better for the kids for us to stay in this unhappy marriage. There's a lot of ways to debate that. And just because a marriage is unhappy doesn't mean it has to stay unhappy. I'm not saying the answer is divorce. It might be doing something different to make it happy, right? Or contentment. I don't like happiness, but as a clinician, these are all the things that you're challenging people to do. So there's different levels of intensity, um, crisis introduction. We might be turning up the emotional heat. We're unbalancing things because we're trying to find balance. So in some of that, it could get harder before it's going to get easier. You might temporarily join sides with someone to help with the scapegoated individuals or subsystems that need stronger boundaries. So these are all things that could be going on when doing this type of therapy. And we're going to expand their worldview. Like when possible, a therapist works with family beliefs to expand its function, allows families to maintain core beliefs, but that use them in new ways. We're not saying everything, like I said, is what's going wrong, but there's things that aren't working well, and we're trying to change that. So I hope all this information was helpful. I know it's like kind of quick and it sums it up fast, but this is just a way to highlight what you're reading. If you have questions, please reach out. We are on week 2. This rolls by quick. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful evening.